Andrew Urquhart with you on the program today. And, it's a new horticultural segment with Tash McGill. She has, been very busy in her garden, growing herself a salad just in time for Christmas. Tash, kia ora, thank you for your adaptability in being our new garden correspondent. Welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you. Look, and honestly, I've been waiting for the opportunity for somebody to recognise my gardening prowess. Yeah. No, I'm joking. I'm really only a second-time gardener.
Okay.
My prevalence towards growing anything has always been herbs. I have a great culinary kitchen. Mm-hmm. So herbs and lemons. Although there was this one year that my brother-in-law came to my house when I was out of town and said I needed to borrow some lemons, and he stripped the tree. Can you imagine? Stripped the tree of lemons.
Oh, my
Unbelievable.
Goodness. Needed to borrow some lemons by being a locust in your garden. And now my sort of attitude towards gardening is if at first you don't succeed, go to the grocery aisle in your supermarket. But you've persisted. You've pushed through perhaps some initial disappointments, and now you're growing potatoes, apparently.
I am. So when I moved to Rotorua, one of the things that happens when you move to a new place, right, is the first thing is I get a little fear of commitment.
Yeah.
How much effort do I want to put into, building a garden here if I'm only going to be here, 1 year, one summer, what have you?
In case somebody strips your lemon tree, for example,
Exactly. But I've made the commitment this year, and in doing so, had to really think about, okay, what will grow well in this space? What will grow well in this region? Our growing season is a little later because we have the lakes, we're a little bit cooler, all that kind of stuff. So it's meant that actually this year I'm growing things in my garden that I've never grown before, like potatoes. Mm-hmm. And so I did what I am prone to do. The journalist in me always pushes into the research. So I went and I did the research.
Right?
I Googled, I YouTubed, I TikToked, all of the things, and found myself immersed in a world of potatoes, not just how to cook them. I'm pretty proficient at that end of the thing, but how to grow them. And I actually found there are so many methods. You can do it in the tower format where you use hay and soil. You can do the mounding process where, you kind of every 15 centimeters of sprouting leaves, you pile a bunch more, there's so many different techniques. Some you kind of, you bury, you do that, there's differing views on whether or not you let them sprout in the dark or in the light. It's very, very, there's so much information. Yeah. So much so that it might be overwhelming, that it might give me anxiety. It might actually give me a little bit of fear. Yeah. To go, you know what? I'm anxious now about this potato adventure.
So, can I just ask a question? Did you go for the stacking model? Are you a stacker when it comes to potato growing, or you're a mounder?
I am going for the mounding model using a grow bag. So I'm using grow bags, and I had to put in a great deal of thought to the type of potato. So when you're somebody like me, who I do get a little bit of performance anxiety, I want things to go well and to be perfect. Yep. So I'm very excited about my tender stem broccoli that's already sprouting. The spinach is going well. The lettuce is great. So all of these things are very successful. The potatoes is what has me afraid because I've never done it before. So here is my observation, though. Now, every time I get home, whether it's leaving for work in the morning, getting home at the end of the night, if I'm away for a few days, I come home and I go to my potato grow bags and I am filled with gratitude. I never realized that just seeing them sprout through the top of the soil could actually give me so much joy and so much to be grateful for, that they're not that the technique is the best technique, not that the potato, but I'm just grateful to see them growing. And there's an amazing piece of neurochemistry that happens in this moment that I want to tell people about, because it's really important to understand that gratitude and fear or anxiety cannot exist in your brain at the same time.
Wow. That's such a good thing to know.
This is an incredibly powerful piece of brain chemistry. So fear is the thing that underlies anxiety. It's a big contributor to depression.
Yep.
It's often a big contributor to things like procrastination, or if you're somebody who has ADHD, like me, yay, for the neurodivergent in the world. But fear is a really big trigger emotion. I think we've probably all felt it in varying ways over our lifetime, whether it be short or long. And gratitude does something to your brain chemistry. They're not exactly sure what happens, but think about it like a magic short circuit. That when you introduce gratitude, if you are able to find one thing in a day that you are grateful for, fear and anxiety can no longer exist in your brain at the same time.
Well, it's kind of like, is it like acid and alkali? It's like that pH spectrum. If it's too acidic, add more alkali, and vice versa. I'm not advising this for your potatoes, but it's great for rhododendrons, they tell me.
I'm definitely not going to be adding any more acid to my potatoes. But this is the point. The potatoes gave me anxiety. They gave me fear. And now I'm so grateful to see them popping out of the soil and sprouting that it has eliminated the fear of now what happens.
Wow.
Because my gratitude is that, hey, they got this far. And whilst that might sound like a really trite little example, it is something that is so simple and so achievable to each day have a gratitude practice.
Yep.
It's something that people talk about a lot in the space of mindfulness, in the space of mental wellness, even just, to grow up grateful and being grateful for what you have is something that we try and instill in our kids. It's something that I try and instill in my niece and nephew all the time. But it's actually really powerful to know what's happening in your brain when you engage in that practice of gratitude.
That is such a practical thing to do. And honestly, even for a non-potato grower such as myself, I get them in bags, as I mentioned before. But actually, when you are in a situation which you find stressful or fear-inducing or anxiety-inducing, just find something to be grateful about. Focus on that. I mean, it's like that passage in Philippians, isn't it? Whatever is wonderful and lovely, think about those things. You'll just be less stressed. There'll be less anxiety. And hey, potatoes, on the potatoes,
are delicious.
They are delicious. Do you have an end goal for your potatoes, Tash?
I do. So one of the things I was inspired by, of course, a selection of things that grow well in this climate.
Yep.
Corn, kale, potatoes, broccoli. But it was the corn, kale, and potatoes that reminded me of this delicious salad that I know.
Wow.
So when my potatoes are ready, I very intentionally, you can tell I'm a bit of a potato nerd at this point, I chose a variety of potatoes that roast really well.
Nice.
So roasted crispy potatoes with a little charred kale. Cavolo Nero is the best kind, not the curly Tuscan. So Cavolo Nero, kale, and charred corn with a little bit of paprika, fresh mint, and loads of butter is a delightful summer salad. I can
almost taste that. That is absolutely fantastic. And some encouragement for you. My an elderly aunt of mine lived in Rotorua for many years. She had an absolutely fantastic vegetable garden. Asparagus was very good in her garden. That might be something to try for next year. And also in certain parts of Rotorua, you can grow self-cooking potatoes, depending on how close you are to the geothermal region.
Very good. Thank you indeed.
So all the best.
I tell you what.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited. This weekend is all about putting the berries in. So blueberries, and we can have some fun conversations about everything I've learned about cross-pollination between berry plants. It's a world of amazing brain lessons to come from that.
So this magical stress-reducing, anxiety-eliminating salad that you're preparing, is this going to be like a Christmas dish for you, Tash, or what's the end goal, or is this right through summer?
It'll be right now, the way that I've got my planting planned, it's going to be right through summer. If you come for dinner, come for a barbecue, come for a swim at the lake, and maybe some lunch afterwards, that's going to be the salad on the table.
Sounds like a plan, Tash. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks. Cheers.